So I just wanted to create this quick video to talk about animations in Elementor entry animations, etc. And like everybody, I get kind of wound up in trying to learn everything. I see these incredible websites with lots of animations and moving parts and animated SVGs and all this sort of stuff, and want to know how to do it. Now, the epiphany I had yesterday was I was looking at the GSAP library, which is absolutely incredible. The animations and the smooth ways you can do things, the way you can change the way things scroll, it's just absolutely incredible. And it's not a very difficult library to use if you have a little bit of JavaScript skills. But then it also comes down to the design element, and sometimes too much animation is just too much animation, and sometimes it's super cool, and it's trying to find that balance. Now, my target market is small businesses, not businesses that want to spend $5, $6, $7, $8, $10,000 or more on a website. So I had an epiphany yesterday where I'm looking at going, why am I doing all this? Why am I wanting to know how to create all these horizontal scrolling and things moving as you scroll and that sort of stuff, using these libraries when really the customer base that I have isn't calling for that. If I was doing sites for corporates or studios or photographers, things like that, where we wanted all this really flashy looking stuff, it would make sense. But for a typical business like an accountant, a lawyer, hairdresser, whatever, it is cool, but is it really needed? Is the question I sort of asked. So I had a look through some of the libraries in the experts.elementor.com there, and I won't mention names, but I looked at some of the ones that are quite well known and well respected through the forum. And what I noted with theirs is that it was more about the colors and the layout and the design and less about the animations. So very, very little of that. But it's also good to know that you can simply do some of this stuff in Elementor without too much trouble. So what I wanted to demonstrate today is a very simple way of doing GSAP type of animations, not quite GSAP, but just using pure CSS and what you already have in Elementor. I'm going to start by creating a section, standard section, and I'm going to set it to full width with no gap because I don't want any spacing on the sides. I'm then going to add a intersection to that, and that's going to be where my content sits in the middle. Delete one of those containers, the columns, I should say. I'll just bring up the navigator so I can see this a little bit better. There it is, heading off the side of the screen. I think it might be zoomed in a little bit too much for this, so I'm just going to zoom out, bring that in. Okay, got my navigator here. Now, so what I want to do is on my intersection, I want to put some content in there like headings, all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to just chuck a quick heading in there. Intersection, stick in the middle, and I'll set it to an H1 with a large, that's fine. Okay, so coming back to the column, I want to set my vertical line to middle, back to the intersection. I want to set the height of that to be a minimum height of 100 view height. Sorry, this thing's changed to pixels for some reason. Minimum height 100 view height. There we go. Now it's doing what it's supposed to do. So I'm then just going to grab a spacer widget. I'm going to just drag it in up here. So I want it to sit above the intersection. And all I'm going to do is just give it a background. I'll pick a color. I'll just use my primary color. And then we've got an intersection there. Now, what I want to do is use this as a background line. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. So first of all, I need to just quickly check. I keep forgetting the name of the inner element. Yeah, it's the widget container, Elementor widget container. I'm just going to copy that. And go over to my site CSS. I'm going to use multiple of these. I'm going to call it a hero accent line. I'm going to then target that container, and I'm going to make that a height of, say, 100 VH, width, make it, say, I don't know, 30 pixels. We'll make it REM, make it 6 REM. We'll give it a bit of a skew. So we'll go transform and skew, and I'll make it minus 15 degrees. I'll explain that shortly. So now I've created a class. I'm just going to grab that class name I just created, update this. And go back to my spacer. I'm going to add that class to it. So now I've got a spacer that is 100 high, 100 VH high, 6 REM wide, and skewed minus 15 degrees. Now we'll see here we've got these scroll bars that have come up, and the reason for that is because our section has overflow. So I'm going to set the overflow to hidden. That gets rid of those scroll bars. Now this is actually in the editor, it will show there, but in the front end it won't. Right. So the other thing is let's push the heading down. So I'm going to grab that spacer, go into my advanced and set the positioning to inline auto and absolute. And now it's absolute to the top of this section here. The inner section has its content, which is centered on the screen. Okay, so the other thing I want to do is move the horizontal offsets. I want to move that in a little bit like that. Okay, once I've done that, I'm going to just duplicate this and do the same thing. Go to my positioning. I'm going to move that one across a bit more. Duplicate it again. Go to our positioning. And move that one across a bit more. You can get accurate with this if you want. Now, the thing I'm noting too is because I made these absolutely positioned and the heading hasn't been made absolutely positioned. I go to the intersection here. I set a Z index on that of, say, 10. Whoops, CSSID. Where's my Z index? There, 10. That's going to stick it on top of the lines. Let's have a look at where we're up to so far. Okay, basically a heading here with lines. That's all we got. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is animate these. So we can select these and do just really simple animations if we want to. So with our motion effects, we'll do a slide in left, and we'll do the same on the next one. Slide in left, same on the next one. Slide in left, and actually I'll put a delay on that, so 400. The other one, I'm going to make that 200. Select our heading, and we might just make that a, where are we? Advanced motion effects. Make it just a fade in down. Okay, so let's have a look where that is. Very simple effect that just doing with our built-in motion effects. Okay, so the next thing we can do to actually make this more like GSAP type animations is applying custom motion effects. So let's grab the heading first, and I'm going to select the motion effects. Now I've got some motion effects I've defined myself. I'm going to add a code snippet to the video that you can download, which will add some of these Entrance Animations. So if I come down to the bottom here, I've got these ones here where I've got some called WPG Custom 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this will be the same as the class name that we create for it. So if I select that one as a Custom 1, okay, it doesn't do anything just yet because we haven't defined the actual keyframes for that. So if I go back to my site settings and custom CSS, I'm going to pinch some stuff and I'll put copies of this in the description as well. So typically I start with defining a few variables. So my distances that I'm going to move over. These animated ones are copies of the timing of the Elementor slow, normal, and fast. And the reason I do that is because sometimes I want to animate not the actual widget, but some of the contents inside the widget. And I need to actually then be able to apply these, which I can't do through the way Elementor adds its classes for the animation speed. So we add those. I'm going to grab another one here, which I've just realized I've named the wrong name. I'm going to rename that. So I'm going to call this Custom 1 and Custom 1. So now what I've done, because I've applied a motion effect here with the class WPG Custom 1, I can tell it which animation keyframes to use and the animation timing effect, and then what I want to actually do over that period of time. Now, this is pretty much exactly what GSAP does, but it does it through JavaScript, through a nice little interface where you've got keyframes, you've got timelines, you've got all sorts of things that you can do. So this is not anywhere near as powerful as GSAP, but it certainly is an easy way to do this. So you would have noticed when I just changed that, if I change that back to 2, change it back to 1, that animation there, so that popped in and popped out. So that is because of this cubic bezier and the keyframes that we've got here. So I'm just going to update that. Show you how to work out that cubic bezier. So I have a look at my Chrome DevTools, have a look at this heading element. And there's the cubic bezier there. In Chrome DevTools is a really cool little tool. If you click on the icon for that, it brings up a little editor. So you can actually change the way that works. So maybe we'll make it more like this. They go fast and then slow. So I'm going to grab this cubic bezier here. I'm going to place that, this one, and update that. Now if we do an F5, the animation changed the way it animates over the timing of it. Okay. Now the background lines are still just a standard slide in effect. Let's have a look at changing those. So if we go back to here, let's expand all those, select the first spacer, and we'll make this our motion effect is custom 2. Again, I'll provide a code snippet which will add these to the entrance animations for you. So update that. We want to do that to all of them. So we're just going to grab the next spacer, motion effects, two, motion effects, custom 3, custom 2. All three of these got the custom 2s, same delays. Okay, let's go back to our site settings and CSS. Going to grab some more keyframes. which I've already created over here. I'm going to have to just renumber those. Custom 1, which I'll rename to custom 2. It'll be custom 2, 2, and 2. Okay, so with custom 2, I'm using again a cubic bezier, and this is actually emulating the one of the GSAP effects where it comes in quickly, goes past the point, and then comes back just a little bit, and that's the bezier that I've used for that. So what this is doing is it's setting the opacity to 0 at the beginning, translating the X. Now this -1 times var, the reason we do that is because Firefox doesn't understand 1 minus var, so it just doesn't interpret it properly. So doing -1 times the variable makes it a negative number. So we want it to be -1 times the distance long, which we just defined up here, of 60 rem. So minus 60 rem. We're going to set the scale to 0.5. And then at 100%, we want the scale to opacity be 1, scale back to 1, and translating back to its beginning point. So if I update that, refresh this page, it's a totally different animation. So it goes past it. So it's scaling from 0.7 up to 1. It goes past its endpoint and just comes back a little bit. That's kind of similar to what you're doing with GSAP, but not exactly the same. But all the settings can be managed through a little bit of CSS and then just selecting the animations you want in Elementor. So just by clicking on the spacer here, motion effects, setting whatever custom effect you want, and what the animation speed is, and what the animation delay is. So you can still control those from here. So for me, I think that's a lot easier than importing the GSAP library, learning about JavaScript, learning about how to tween and use all the different effects that they have. Again, I love GSAP. I think it's incredible, and this is only a small part of what it does. But if it's only animations that you're after, this is one way of doing it. Now, at the end of this, what I'll do is I'll put a copy of the CSS I've just created in the video description, and a link to a code snippet which will give you these custom drop downs for your animations. And if you want to have a play with that, go for your life. And I hope you enjoy that.